Eskom has announced that from next week, City Power will be taking the lead in implementing rotational power cuts in Johannesburg. This means certain areas will now be supplied solely by City Power. However, some areas that have been compromised due to technicalities will still be supplied by Eskom. Let's bring in the Power Utilities Gauteng spokesperson, Qithi, who joins us now via our video link. Amanda, it's great to have you in the program. Thanks for making time early this Tuesday. Can you, as a start, help us understand what the thinking behind this is?
Good morning, Ayanda, and thank you for the opportunity. I think just to correct, it's not supplied, but it's really to implement load shedding in the areas that Eskom was implementing load shedding, but the electricity is supplied by City Power.
Right.
So the reason we made the decision is because City Power submitted a request that they were now able to take over the implementation of load shedding within the areas of supply. In the past, we were implementing load shedding on their behalf. So they then came to Eskom and they said they now have the capacity to implement load shedding for their areas of supply. So hence then from the 6th of November, we will be handing over for them to implement load shedding in those areas.
Okay, and does that have any bearing on the end user? I mean, should people anticipate, for instance, their load shedding schedules to change at all?
Yeah, most definitely, because what is going to happen is that we're going to be making changes to the blocks, and the blocks will then ultimately affect the schedules. So hence we are then advising customers to please go onto their websites and look at the new schedules, which will be made available on the 6th of November. And this is not only then to the City Power customers, because we have to make some changes from our side as well. When we hand over some of the areas to City Power, we need to make adjustments to our blocks, and as a result, it then affects the schedule for our Eskom supplied areas as well across the province.
Okay, if you can help us understand why this is necessary at a technical level, I think that would be helpful, because in my mind, as a layperson, I'm sure many people are asking, why can't City Power just continue with the schedule that Eskom was implementing all this time?
Because remember, we were doing the load shedding from our side, so now they will be the ones that are implementing load shedding using their own systems. So therefore, it is important. So unfortunately, because of these changes whereby they are taking over even the implementation, the operations of if it's going to manually either opening or closing, or whether it's done remotely, everything will be done by City Power. So they've had to then obviously build it into their system, the new blocks, together with the schedules. So the change is really around the blocks and the schedules.
Right.
That's the only change. And then the City Power customers then being load shed directly from City Power.
In other words, City Power and Eskom systems aren't perfectly aligned, and so if City Power takes over, things inevitably have to work differently. Is that right?
It's different systems.
Right. Okay, fair enough. But I mean, it's also an opportunity, I suppose, to speak about your own concerns at Eskom, about how specific municipalities are not keeping to the load shedding schedule as per communicated by the power utility. I remember it must have been earlier this year where Eskom had flagged that this is actually having a bearing on the grid. How far have we come in solving that issue?
So I think we constantly monitor the municipalities and the other utilities to ensure that they are actually complying and implementing load shedding as they should. And to date, I mean, you have seen that we've been, I think it was in July when we handed back load shedding to the city of Ekurhuleni. And thus far, they have been complying and implementing load shedding as they should.
Right. And is this the long-term plan, you reckon, that eventually each region will be able to take care of their own load shedding, or is Eskom still looking to have some kind of overarching oversight of this particular process?
So in terms of the NRS, each licensed distributor is allowed to implement load shedding and should implement load shedding from their side, depending on how constrained and how much load they need to shed. They need to implement it on their side, and then we don't have to do it for the different utilities. It's only when they are experiencing technicalities and they request us to do it, then we would do it. But other than that, it's just a matter of making sure that they implement and we don't constrain the grid. That's right. Really the requirement. Each licensed distributor needs to implement load shedding on their side.
Speaking about the grid, I mean, City Power had initially raised concerns about the impact that load shedding is having on their own infrastructure. Put it simply, they were saying that their infrastructure and equipment is not built for turning the power on and off as often as load shedding requires. How big a concern is that for Eskom?
I mean, I think for all the utilities that are in the same business as us, we would have the same constraints, but I think we always look for solutions to try and guard against such things. I mean, it is a situation that we're currently facing, so we have to try and put controls in place to try and lessen the impact on the infrastructure.
All right. Amanda Qithi, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Appreciate your time on the AM report. Amanda is the spokesperson of Eskom in Gauteng. So, of course, the take-home there is that City Power will be taking over the load-shedding schedule, and that affects predominantly residents in Johannesburg, those both supplied by Eskom. No, let me say that differently. Those supplied by both Eskom and City Power will be affected. So you want to relook at your schedule from the 6th of next month, we're told.